Welcome to Wide Angle Conversations, an initiative of Life by Design with Taruna Aggarwal. This is season 3, and we've invited guests whose work reflects their passion for a more inclusive and equal world. My guest today is Laletha Nithiyanandan. She wears many hats. She's a serial entrepreneur. She started her first business at the age of 20 and has never looked back. Even today, she is involved in a number of business and community projects. Hi Laletha, welcome to Wide Angle Conversation Season 3.
Thank you for having me here.
It's a pleasure. Laletha, you started, you're, as I've introduced you right now, it's like you've been into the entrepreneurial journey, and the first business that you started was at the age of 20.
Yes, that's right.
Right? And that became, that really grew, and you grew that business to, as you mentioned, having about 17 offices all over Singapore. And then until then you sold it to Kelly Services.
Yeah.
Right? So tell us a little bit about that, and what put you on this path of entrepreneurship?
Well, I think, I didn't know what I was getting into actually, and I just didn't like the work world, and I thought that I could have a better environment for myself if I was to have a business, maybe with one employee or something like that. I wasn't really thinking of anything more than that. But I remember when I started the business, I said I will run it for 10 years and then I'll sell it. On the 10th year, like clockwork, we had people wanting to buy our business, but then the other partners weren't ready to sell. So I ran it for another 10 years. But I think the motivation for me was just to have a better work environment, because at that time the work world was not like what it is now. And I just felt I wanted to have an environment around me that was conducive for me to work.
Okay. So it was the business was in the line of human
yes,
the recruitment
business. That's right.
Yeah. Okay, so you built it. It was your baby. You started with saying, maybe started with one employee with you, and then growing to such a big one, and then you come to a stage where you decide to sell it. What made you sell?
I think all along I knew that I wanted to only be involved in a business where I could be, have exercised my creativity to some extent. And I knew that there was a limit to where I wanted to go. And I think as a business grows and grows, what I found was I was becoming more of a manager instead of an entrepreneur. And so I felt more caged in, and I felt the need that, to sell it. And it was my first baby. And then when I had my real babies in my life, I said, it's time for me to now focus and shift my attention to my babies.
Okay, so then you shifted to bringing up your children, and the business is going. I mean, you were you involved with that business at all, or you just?
Yeah, it didn't happen straight away as soon as I had my children. It happened some years later. So I was still involved in the business to some extent, either in a consultative capacity, or perhaps later on actually took on a corporate role with them some years later.
You started a lot of other ventures, like
So with the kids, what happened was I started thinking about education, and I felt that the school system was too tight for my kids, and I wanted them to be children as long as possible. So I actually brought in a school system here called Steiner, Rudolf Steiner Waldorf Schools at that time. Started a school below my house, and then we realized that there was only a limit, because in the Steiner system they don't believe in exams till you take your O levels, whereas in Singapore we have the primary 6 PSLE exams. So it didn't take off, so we moved countries for the education of our children.
Okay, so where did you move to?
Australia.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you lived in Australia, and there as well you were did you start?
I was still consulting for this business, but I also started another business there. And I wanted to do products. I didn't want to do people for a while, so I dealt with people-friendly products for a while. So yeah, I always had something or the other happening.
Right. But what I've seen, like your work is always around people development, potential, and empowerment.
Mhm.
Why is that um, important for you?
I mean, first of all, in the planet, um, we are the only thinking beings, and we are here, I feel, to protect
Mm,
Earth and the rest of mankind, even and the species in the world.
right.
So I feel that if we grow,
Mm.
then everything else around us grows as well.
One of the initiatives that or the ventures that you have is the behavioral consulting group.
Yes.
What is this? What is this? Is this around?
So basically, we're a consulting company,
Mm-hmm.
and we focus on behavioral science-based solutions and neuroscience-based solutions to help improve performance and productivity in organizations.
Right.
And the main reason I started this was because I went back into the corporate world
Mm-hmm.
because when I was consulting, they spotted me and asked me to bring 6 services to 13 countries. So when I was involved in that, I was right in the thick of corporate world and politics to some
Mm.
extent, as it is with most large organizations. And it made me realize a lot of things
Mm-hmm.
and realize that a lot of issues in organizations has to do with our behavior as leaders or as employees. So
Right.
that's the reason why I decided to
Mm.
look at starting a company called Behavioral Consulting Group.
Wonderful. Yeah, there are the many of the issues arise because of
It's
our
our behavior.
mindsets and
Yes.
behaviors, right?
Yes.
And the made of brilliance
Hmm.
is, again, you mentioned, a peer learning platform for
Hmm.
youth. What was the inspiration to start
Well,
that?
first of all, youth are our future.
Hmm.
And so when I was thinking about it and brainstorming with another partner, and we were talking about it, and we said, okay, if we wanted to do something that was like, because this year I'm 61, I'll be 62 this year. So we
Mm-hmm.
said, okay, if we're going to do something that might be the last thing I do or something that I do for the rest of my life, then
Mm.
what would it be and where would I want to spend my time? And I realized that there were a lot of areas I didn't want to spend time in,
Mm-hmm.
but I definitely wanted to spend time here. And we chose this age group youth between, say, 13 and 18 because I feel there are programs for the younger ones,
Mm.
there are programs for the older ones,
Mm.
but this group is stuck in an exam factory,
So true.
and this is the age where they develop problems,
Mm.
whether it's bullying or depression or anxiety and things like that.
Mm.
So I felt that if there was a way for them to feel fulfilled
Mm.
and feel that they can express themselves and contribute to other youth like themselves,
Mm.
then that should give them a sense of achievement and a
Right.
sense of getting in touch with the spark of brilliance within them.
What do you think enables your success?
Um, I mean, I think there's a part of me where I feel I can do it,
Mm.
and I attribute that to my dad, who
Mm.
always said that you can do anything or be anything you want to be.
Right.
And I think I actually believed it all, just took it all in.
Mm.
So that's part of it. So
Mm-hmm.
I've always had that belief that, yeah, I can do this. And the other part of it has to do with meeting good people or supporters or other people who believe in you.
Mm.
And there's also a third part, and that's got to do with a bit of luck and a bit of higher guidance or some kind of divine intervention.
In your journey, what was the most challenging situation that you could still remember, probably?
Um, okay, in work, I remember the first time I had to fire someone.
Mm-hmm.
I was 21 and I had to fire this person, and then I went home and cried. Not there, but then I went home and cried.
Uh-huh.
And that was pretty traumatic for a young person. And I realized at that point, I didn't realize that, but over the years, doing business, outplacements, a whole lot of different things, I realized that it's always not easy to let go of
Mm.
people. So I think that was that in workplace.
Right.
But in my own life was making a decision to choose palliative care for my mother when she had cancer.
Okay. Right. I think that's always very hard
Yeah,
and difficult.
yeah.
Mm. So, what would be the one takeaway from these all the challenges and all in your life journey that you faced, whether professionally or personally?
I think for me, it's like, it's a one-time journey, life, and parents and loved ones, one-time journey. So you just have to make the best of it. When I talk to younger parents these days, and they say to me, if there's one thing I learned, and I'll say, hug your children more, love your children more. And it's the same in the work world. I don't know why we have to separate everything to the work world, where we seem to be like we're not supposed to have feelings. And so I would say, just express, love, and give love to people, and kindness, generosity of spirit, and looking for giving people some benefit of doubt, giving people some chances, I think is the best thing you can do. And probably that's what I've learned, not just in those challenges, but with my parents, and just in running a business, because there were many, many people who gave me chances.
Right.
I wouldn't have come there otherwise.
Right. And it's so true. These are the values, I think, and these are the things that are needed in the world today.
Yeah, we need more of that.
More and more of compassion and empathy in every field.
Yeah.
That we need.
And we're human first.
Yeah.
And we need to see that. Not see as somebody is a means to an end. And if we can do that, then our job's done.
People who are kind of maybe starting out, or the youth also, who are looking at fulfilling their dreams, what would be something that you would want to say to them?
You get there. You do actually get there. And when I was young, I remember looking around and looking at people who were very accomplished and thinking, will I ever be able to do that? You do actually. And I think what it is one, believing that you can do it, and two is doing a good job of it. Right. And making sure that you learn and you find the best approaches and do it. And I think negative thinking is an indulgence we can't afford. So as a young person in running a business, sometimes people ask me, they said, didn't you worry that you won't succeed? And I say, well, I didn't have time to think about it. When you have your back to the wall and you have bills to pay, you don't have the luxury of thinking, will I fail? Right. So I think we have to be very vigilant with our thoughts. And that's what I do and focus on. That's and right. It works for me.
No, that I think how we talk to ourselves is the most important, right? Yeah. How we are talking to ourselves inside, that conversation is very important. I totally also believe.
And being kind too.
Because
sometimes we push ourselves too much, right?
Right. Yeah. We forget to be compassionate towards our own self, I think, and that's where it should start. That's the start point.
Yeah.
And then you can take it out to the world.
Yeah.
Right. But in this, the running of the business and all, sometimes it becomes too overwhelming, and you stop taking care of your inner self, as you just mentioned also. So what do you do? How do you bring that balance?
For me, I like long walks in nature. And because I was doing something with gastrogeography before, I spot the trees and plants and I can recognize them. So that gives me a lot of joy. Okay. Talking to my children, family, we have a lot of get-togethers, or with my friends now because my children are not here. But we connecting with people. Right. And cooking. I like cooking meals and creating new things. So that keeps me busy.
So it's the love of the plants, and then that goes on to the cooking as well.
Yes.
Right. Wonderful. Well, thank you, Laletha. That was I really thoroughly enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you.
And what stood out to me, I think, is the calmness that you have, and that giving, the attitude of giving, which is actually a mark of an authentic soul. And I think that is really important.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you for sharing your story. Okay. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. With this, we conclude Season 3. Throughout the season, we have brought you different stories and diverse group of people. The one thing that stayed common throughout the season was the connectedness of the human spirit, which has become even more important in these times. Wide-angle conversations is our way to keep you connected. We'll see you next season. Until then, stay safe.